We'll now link up with Eshomo Moimudu and TJ Soadeoye in our Abuja studio for the conversation around rising security challenges in Nigeria. Good morning, guys. How is Abuja this morning? And I'm handing over the conversation to you right now.
Good morning, Veronica. Abuja is peaceful as always.
And I think a bit of the cold, the rain these days, when you're in the rain.
Are you experiencing cold?
Yeah, a bit.
Maybe from the
cold weather, not really
cold. I would say from the AC, but the weather is still getting itself. It's not yet cold.
Yeah, did you watch the video from Niger State of what the governor was saying about profiling the dreadlock, people with dreadlock?
I feel it's just misplaced priorities. You should focus on the real issue rather than the appearance of people that are perpetrating this crime. He said that it's all people that are carrying dreadlocks are criminals. I don't really agree with that narrative.
And have we arrested any a kidnapper or bandits?
Well, that's left for the governor to answer.
Okay, let's give you what we have for you today. Now, good morning, everyone, and thanks for staying with us on TVC Breakfast. Now, today we begin with Nigeria's most urgent and heartbreaking concern, which is insecurity. Now, from the desert of Zamfara to the highways of Kaduna, the growing wave of banditry, kidnapping, and terrorism continues to threaten the peace, safety, and stability of our nation. As citizens live in fear, the call for urgent and decisive action grows louder. For many Nigerians, the road is no longer safe. Homes are no longer sanctuaries, and farms have become battlegrounds. Armed bandits and terrorist groups continue to terrorize communities in Jos, Benue, amongst others, displacing thousands and claiming innocent lives. In the northwest and north central regions, banditry and mass abductions have paralyzed education and agriculture. In the northeast, Boko Haram and ISWAP fighters remain active despite years of military operations. Meanwhile, part of the South and Middle Belt are also witnessing a disturbing rise in violent crimes, including cult clashes, armed robbery, and rural attacks.
However, President Bola Tinubu's administration has pledged to restore peace and has empowered the security agencies with new strategies, equipment, and partnerships. The National Security Advisor recently unveiled a new counter-terrorism framework, while the military has intensified airstrikes on bandit hideouts in the northwest. But despite these efforts, many Nigerians remain skeptical, demanding visible, lasting results. The question facing Nigeria is no longer just about fighting crime. Rather, it's about winning back the trust of the people and restoring the soul of the nation. Can Nigeria end banditry and terrorism? The path forward will require more than just bullets. It will require bold leadership, deep reforms, and the unity of all Nigerians. And for more on this very pressing issue in our national life, let's speak with a former British police officer, Onyekwelu, who joins us now via Zoom. It's good to have you on the program, Mr. Onyekwelu.
Thank you. Good morning, Nigeria.
Good morning to you. Well, let's jump straight into the discussion now. Is there really a step-by-step approach to ending insecurity as we have it in Nigeria? And we've tried several strategies, military approach, even peace talks, and yet the problem still persists. Mr. Onyekwelu.
I think we're having a challenge with his network.
Okay, we'll come back to him now, but we've seen different approach being applied to tackling these insecurity problems, and even suggestions being made, peace talks and all of that. But this problem
persist.
Yes, we've seen different government top officials visiting the regions where these attacks are being carried out. Yet we don't see any substantial results that come out from such issues. But let me direct it back to Mr. Onyekwelu. I hear that you're back now. Can we hear your contributions on the questions I just asked you. Did you hear me?
Yes, I heard you loud and clear.
All right, you can proceed.
Yeah, sorry for the technological break. Now, basically, what we are experiencing in the country is something that we can manage without having this prolonged repetition of loss of precious lives and loss of properties in Nigeria. Basically, we know the enemies because the enemies seem to be fanatical religious groups. Many of them, we know their names. Many of them, we know their identities. Some of their commanders, some of their leaders, we have seen their faces. We've also seen their TikTok accounts where they are busy sharing money, living a frivolous life, showing off the wealth, the bounties they made from their operations. So we are not dealing with an unknown enemy. We are not dealing with an unknown groups. We are not dealing with unknown faces. We are not dealing with people that has got no identities. Number two, we also know their locations because the trail of blood across their operational areas has given them off to where their locations are. We know what they are doing in Benue State. We know what they are doing in Plateau State and other parts of the country. So as a professional, when you are able to know the location of a group of criminals, when you are able to know the ideal operational locations where they hit and run and come back the next time, hit and run, that is the problem half solved. And when you also know their identities, even their faces, even the kind of weapons they use, that is half of the problem also solved. So the other area is the lack of willpower, the lack of leadership, the lack of commitment in the leaders of the nation to do the needful based on reasons best known to them. That's the only problem we have. So we have like only 50% of the problem solved. The other 50% is just the lack of willpower and commitment and leadership to stop this senseless killings of innocent Nigerians. Thank you.
Now, when you say lack of willpower, over time we've seen different presidents change service chiefs, give marching order to security agencies, agents to move into action. And also we've seen visits by National Security Advisor, by Defense Chief and all that. Now, what else? What type of other leadership would you expect? Or how will you expect that that these people approach dealing with whether it is terrorists or bandits?
First of all, you will notice when people speak from the two sides of their mouth. And you know, in Nigeria, we respect money against our conscience. In Nigeria, we respect wealth. Even the level of wealth that most of us cannot even finish in our lifetime. We respect wealth, our connection, our politics, over doing the right thing based on serving the nation, serving the people. So when you talk about different presidents, do those presidents you're referring to, do they have the willpower? Remember what President Abacha said, that when a certain crime persists for more than 48 hours, the government in power knew about it. It's not my own words. That's the word of a past president of Nigeria and a very strong president in that who understands this issue of criminality. Also, when you talk about the roles of NSAs that's come and gone, do they have the willpower or are they doing just lip service? You tell me, how can a state to states is where the human beings are living? I'm not talking about the bushes or the forests that are inhabited. What does it take the Nigerian military to be on ground, as in 10 minutes, 15 minutes response time? They should be able to hit wherever these people are attacking. But how come these people were attacked for hours and nobody turns up? and after they must have left, the military now turns up. If you look at that pattern, it's been consistent. Even when Southern Kaduna was attacked during the last regime of our president, our immediate past president, these attacks will be ongoing. People making phone calls to their nearest police stations, to the nearest military barracks. Nobody turns up. And then, after the attack has done, they've walked away. Then they will appear in the name of the military. And tell me something else. How come these people will hit and run? Where did they return to? Where does this bandits return to? Do they return to caves, underground caves? Do they return to an unknown forest? Do they return to some evil forest that does not exist, that we cannot see human beings moving with their motorcycles, which is their normal movement routine, motorcycles and trucks, Hilux trucks? Where do they return to? So basically, the commitment is not there. And obviously, this is Nigeria. We can't just start naming names because we have to be very professional over the this kind of discussions. So the commitment is not there. Speaking through the sides of their two mouths, because as a professional, when people attack Lantan, for example, and after 1 hour, 2 hours of raid, they return to where? Their motorbikes will show their foot trail. Their Hilux vans will show their foot trail of their movement from point A to point B. The locals know the direction they've moved into, they ran into. Every nation should have at least 15 minutes response time in this kind of crime, organized crime. But nobody does nothing. And when these people have hit and run and killed, after 2-3 hours, they will now land in the name of response. No, they're not being professional, they're not being truthful. Thank you.
Well, more Nigerians are being told to defend themselves against these attacks. We've seen some of the security agencies being overstretched, and, you know, the communities have to take matters into their own hands. Would you say that them defending themselves might lead to more chaos, or this is just a way to go?
Honestly speaking, defending themselves would not bring more chaos. Defending themselves, as in, communities now who are under threat, defend themselves is a smart way to do. However, it has to be a measured level of self-defense. I'm sorry to say, Nigeria is not ripe to have Nigerians having their own arms. I'm sorry to say that, because a lot of people are going to abuse those arms. Nigeria is not highly learned or exposed to ask Nigerians to bear their own arms. I'm sorry to say we are not in that mindset yet because of the level of illiteracy, because of the level of what we call in the local palace, gara-gara. If you allow Nigerians to start bearing their own arms, you will see people that will senselessly kill their friends or shoot their relatives that are dead because of local politics or because of local conflicts. So in that way, I would not support any idea or any calls for Nigerians to bear their own arms because of level of exposure and illiteracy. On the other side, I believe that communities, vigilantes, local leaders, kings, governors should organize a relative level of response for self-defense for communities. And there are always ways to do that. The bottom line is most of the governors rely so much on the police, the army, the navy, the DSS, the Air Force. Look at the numbers of the military we have in Nigeria. If you add the police, the army, the Air Force, the navy, the custom, immigration, the DSS, the civil defense, all of them, they're not up to 1 million. All of them cumulatively are not up to 1 million in number. So,
Vince, we have a challenge with Vince on network. Yeah. The other time we're talking about this security threat we have, and as Vince was talking, I was just thinking that is it not possible for us to have a system where local vigilantes are licensed, profiled, and registered by governments, and allowed to carry some level of arms, so that they can protect their various communities. Now, we are not throwing it open to everybody, but if you've set a vigilante in every community, have them profiled. There should be enough money. You have security votes that you can take care of them.
Well, first, I think it has to begin with political will, because like you see, he mentioned that there's a lack of political will there. A lot of people are talking about the adoption of state police, but it's even surprising that even the governors in the governors forum, they are not even discussing this matter, which I think should be something to
the last count, they endorsed state police. The last count.
Well, we are not really seeing any real action being taken in that regard as it stands now. They might have said it by word of mouth, but we have not really seen any real action in that regard. But I just think that, you know, all options at this point should be taken, because the matter seems to now be getting out of hand. We're beginning to record, you know, scores of attacks in different areas, most especially in the north. We saw when the government came out to say, oh, we're overcoming Boko Haram, we have a hold on this security challenge, but all of a sudden it has resurfaced again. So is it that we're rejoicing over the issue too early, and you know, maybe security agencies have relaxed a bit, or you know, they just have to be more strategic and, you know, firm on their response to the challenge?
Okay, Vince is back. Now, Vince, can you just continue with your line of thoughts before we had that temporary break?
Yeah, so basically, I support the idea of governors of states, the cultural or traditional kings, to come together to find solutions. And these solutions, you know, we are all smart people, we are all Africans. They are covert solutions. They are overt solutions. So state governors can overtly, meaning openly, work with the federal.
Okay.
Mr. Vince. All right.
Yeah, so having this challenge, because every now and then we hear government talk about overhaul the security architecture, and I begin to wonder, what do you mean overhaul the security architecture?
When you say overhaul security, we see different security meetings. Even the National Assembly has several points, has called these security agencies, okay, come sit down. What is the challenge? I still want to know what is being discussed behind those closed doors and how they are being implemented.
And probably we're not holding some persons responsible.
Exactly, because if you say these service chiefs, you know, when they came in with so much, you know, enthusiasm and, you know, willpower, but you know, all these things just seems to play out, and then the problem still persists. In fact, it even grows more. We see a lot of money is being allocated to, you know, fighting insecurity and defense, but the problem just keeps getting bigger. The question now is, okay, so what solution? Who is going to take up the responsibility, you know, to take charge of this situation and bring, you know, lasting peace to the people?
Some persons are actually talking about the economy of fighting insecurity. People are making so much money, all in the name of fighting insecurity, and that's one area government must also change. I
think the lives of the people should be priority at this point, because if everybody, or if the people are attacked and there's no more lives for you to even govern, I think the lives of the people should matter, should be a priority ahead of any political interest or, you know, personal interest of whatever sort. Well, Mr. Onyekwelu, do we have you online now?
Hi.
Okay.
I'm still here. It's just a different network. I'm still here.
All right. Okay. So you can continue.
So there are overt options for states to implement, and there are overt options. So the overt means the open options, whereas the covert means the closed options. So state governors can have overt discussions with the federal government how to support them, but within them, they can also implement their own state options that you don't need to disclose to the federal government, because in African proverbs, we say that you have to be aware that the walls have ears. When you're trying to fight this kind of terror, this banditry, you need to learn how to close your mouth. You don't actually open all your strategies to both the state partners and the federal partners, because you don't know. We say that when dogs are lying down, you don't know which of the dog is pregnant, because they all look normal. So I will encourage state governors to implement their own open lines of discussions, strategies with the federal government, and also create their own internal covert strategies and discussions with their people on how to protect themselves. The state governors should be aware that these criminals know their locations very well. I am sure that they have wonderful maps that links Gombe into Bauchi, from Bauchi into Nasarawa, from Nasarawa top there, Kaduna, from Nasarawa down there into Plateau, from Plateau into Nasarawa, down to Kogi and into Benue. These maps are easily available for these criminals to get these maps. They know when to bounce back into neighboring states where they have their camps, where they have protection. And it's very sad to say that if the state governors across Nigeria come together to solve this problem, they will solve it. But most of the state governors play politics because of political affiliation, because of some senseless human wealth requirements. They decide to allow these things to happen. If you look at the geography of Plateau State and Benue State, who are their common neighbors? Benue State, for example, Anambra State is a common neighbor. Ebonyi State is also a common neighbor. And I can cross my heart for you that these attacks are not coming from Anambra State or from Ebonyi State. On the other side, Nasarawa State is a common neighbor of Benue State. Kogi State is a common neighbor state to Benue. I'm not saying that these attacks might come there. It's just for us to have an empirical discussion. The same thing with Plateau State. Up there you have Gombe State. Then you have Nasarawa State. And then you have Kaduna State. Now, strategically, behind Kaduna State and behind Kogi State and Nasarawa State, we have the FCT and then the almighty Niger State that you are talking about, the governor having the wrong priorities of talking about dreadlocks. I don't know if they've caught any criminal on dreadlocks. I'm talking about terrorism or banditry. And that is misplaced priority, as one of you said. So in all this, it is a shame that state governors, I'm not saying they are part of this, but they are not willing, they are not committed to support the states that are targeted. And in conclusion, your state may not be a target today. You think you're safe in your state. You're not Plateau State or Benue State of today. You don't know who's going to be the next target tomorrow. Because these guys are on a mission. There are records that are not Nigerians. They speak foreign languages. So if you're safe today, you may not be safe tomorrow. So it's better we all come together, put our hands together to support Benue State and Plateau State. Thank you.
Plateau State has suffered for several years, and we have seen top officials pay visit to the state, including the National Security Advisor. Now, some are calling for a presidential visit to the state. Do you think this will be a game changer? Will the president visiting Plateau State bring any real action and solution to the challenge, or would this just be for another photo op?
Perfectly stated. It's just another photo op. And Mr. President can sit anywhere in the world, whether he's going to be sitting in France, or whether he's going to be sitting in the UK, or in Abuja, or in Lagos. He can just give the order, and there will be peace in Plateau State. He doesn't need to travel to Plateau State for any reasons. That's just as simple as that. Thank you. Okay,
Vince, when people talk about overhauling their security architecture of Nigeria, what do they really mean? Because we have, when service chiefs come in, there's usually a marching order given to them. Now, if they do well, there are commendations that come in. And if they're not able to carry out that marching order, shouldn't there be sanction? Or does that have anything to do with overhauling the security architecture, holding people responsible, giving them tasks and holding them responsible, and placing sanctions?
Unfortunately, the moment Nigeria as a country allowed itself to be managed by security leaders from the Chief of Defense Staff to the Chief of Army Staff, Chief of Naval Staff, Chief of Air Staff, IGP, Director of DSS, and all of them down. The moment Nigerians allow themselves to be led by people that Mr. President alone has the only authority to employ, that is the time we lost neutrality. That is the time we lost professionalism in all those segments. Unfortunately, when one person chooses who leads any of all these security agencies, the loyalty to the interest of that one person becomes questionable. However, if we choose it to be in a different way, whereby maybe the National Assembly, or maybe based on the ranks of the next person in line of power takes over, based on their constitution or based on their regulations, we will have a better structure. But what we have today is a situation whereby Mr. President selects, nominates, or appoints who to be the CDS or the Chief of Army Staff or the IGP. Then the loyalty, the politics continues. Maybe if these attacks were going to happen in the states of Mr. President, Lagos State, for example, we could see a difference. But because today Lagos is not under attack, maybe he has a reason to relax. However, I believe that Mr. President is a good manager of persons and resources. I've seen his life before he became a president, before he became a governor. I believe he's a good man manager. I believe he has what it takes for him to stop this. And I know he can. It's just the people around him may not give him enough room for him to feel the pulse of the people, for him to feel that the bloodletting is unfair and ungodly and unprincipled for his own citizens to be killed. I saw a situation whereby people were doing an Easter parade, I think in Gombe State, and a truck ran through them. You know, it's quite difficult to understand why such will happen. And when there's a religious connotation. In conclusion, remember the Global Terrorism Index, which Nigeria came 5th or 6th earlier this year. And some people in the military are talking, oh, nobody from outside of the country can tell us about terrorism in Nigeria, that they should tell the world about it. Next year, that ranking may come worst for Nigeria, because if you go through all the internet, the world are mourning the killing of Christians in Nigerians. Let me mean Christians, majorly, mostly. I'm not saying that other religious groups are not affected or not caught on crossfires. However, the major target so far has statistically shown to be Christians, and it is wrong. And I know Mr. President is allowed to have more vision, but people who surround him, he has what it takes to curb it. I think he's a good man to do such and not to take such nonsense. Thank you.
Well, President Tinubu told the Plateau State Governor, Caleb Muang, to address the root causes of the attacks in his state. What does he mean by that? Some would say that that is the president, moving the responsibility down the ladder. Do you think that Governor Muang has that capacity and support to address those deep-rooted issues?
Yes and no. First of all, yes. Mr. Governor of Plateau State has what it takes to secure his state. Take that from me. That's why I discussed about overt strategies with the federal government and have his own personal closed covert strategies with his people. Trust me, he has what it takes. However, I'm sorry to say that Mr. President also given this responsibility to the governor, knowing that he's the chief of he's the CNC, he controls the military, he controls the police, he appoints leaders of the police, the army, the navy, the air force, the DSS. So he also has a lot of authority for him to send the resources, the equipment, and the forces to support the governor of the state. Now, if I bring up to you what happened, as a professional, what happened in Rivers State, when state of emergency was called in Rivers State, for reasons best known to the Mr. President, when they arrived Rivers State, they sent signal to the whole police force, the army force that are securing the DSS, that are securing Mr. Governor in Rivers State, for them to step down, step aside, order from above. And everybody abandoned Mr. Governor. Had it been Mr. Governor had his own covert, Rivers State own security structure, he wouldn't be able to be asked to step out of office easily. So, Plateau State Governor, you have what it takes to safeguard lives of your people. Don't just wait for Mr. President. You can do it. If you don't know how to do it, then call for help. You have people that are experienced in those issues. Don't talk too much. Go inside, do your job, let those criminals come back next time. You teach them a lesson in French and in Latin. Then they'll go back and tell them their colleagues. The game has changed. Right. So yes, Mr. Governor of Plateau State can do it.
All right.
He knows how to do it.
Okay, Vince, I just want to bring this quickly in. Now, in the run-up to every major election in Nigeria, we have heightened attacks and insecurity. When President Jonathan was there, at the point even the election was affected and he had to move in to push in the Boko Haram terrorism. What I'm asking is, people are also saying that these heightened and increased attacks in several places are just ways to blackmail those in charge now because an election is around the corner. Do you suspect politics in all this game?
All right.
Oh, yeah.
We hope to have him back to
Shall I ask you that
question.
Okay. Vince, did you hear my question?
No, please.
Okay. In the run-up to every major election, we have heightened attacks. We had it in the days of President Jonathan, when even the election was affected and suspended, and he had to move in to drive out the Boko Haram to the princess of the nation. Now, run up to the 2027 election, people are saying that these increased attacks is just ways to blackmail the system. Now, do you suspect politics being played out here?
I don't see that as, I would say a no. In my personal opinion, I would say a no. Why I say a no is because this is April 2025. The next election is 2027. So if these attacks are going to be used politically, it would have been pictured to happen sometime from the middle or later next year. But this has been going on since the beginning of 2025. So personally, I don't see that as a possibility. Though it's not impossible. This is Nigeria. Now, on the issue of using criminality as a political game, it comes down to state governors. There are some state governors that are in the same political party with Mr. President. There are some state governors that are not in the same political party with the Mr. President. And that is why some schools of thought will say that Mr. President is directing the Plateau State governor, who is not in the APC. But is he still directing the Benue State governor, who is at the APC? These are neighboring states. And how come the two states are not coming together to fight this collectively as a group? Plateau State and Benue State can come together as neighboring states. There are thieves, the TV ethnic group, the Junkuns. All of them have relationships in Benue State or indigenship with Benue State and Plateau State. They too can come together if they leave apart the issue of being a PDP governed state and an APC governed state, because you are elected to safeguard the lives of your people. So if they can leave politics aside, we can do a lot. In conclusion, what I'm going to say now may not be very palatable to some people, but this is Nigeria. We have to be honest. The military are the very big people, personally, I'm fingering, I'm pointing at, I'm talking to. Your local and first deliverables to the nation is to secure our national borders. You can't leave that to the customs and immigration. It's the military that will safeguard our national integrity, our sovereignty. Are they doing that enough? One of the governors have given information that the people doing this don't speak Nigerian language. Although, after some time, many of them will start to speak some northern popular Nigerian languages. So if the military goes back to do their job in the first instance to safeguard our national sovereignty, our national borders. That can checkmate who comes in and who leaves. All those look and crannies people used to come to Nigeria, it can all be cut off. And then we can contain these criminals inside Nigeria and teach them what does bitter leaf taste like. But because of lack of willpower, the military will leave their number one job of securing our national borders and then be chasing Nigerians up and down the arm. You know, it's crazy. It's crazy. The military are responsible.
Vince Onyekwelu there. We must thank you so much for your contributions on the program this morning. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me. Thank you.
Well, just before we wrap up, I would like to raise... Actually, this is not a funny matter. But granting amnesty to repentant Boko Haram terrorists is another matter that, you know, some Nigerians seem to have issue with. You know, these are people that have killed a lot of people, maimed people, destroyed lives, and at the end of the day, they come back and say, okay, we are ready to, you know, down our arms and, you know, we are repentant. And, you know, the government now brings them in. Don't you think that this is quite unfair to the people and maybe even fueling the problem? Yeah,
the language changed. It's no longer amnesty, they say de-radicalization. And my worry has always been, who are you de-radicalizing? The man who took the life of his people, you are de-radicalizing, bringing him back to the society. Now, since we've been doing that, how have we achieved peace? I remember in the days of Kabiru Sokoto, while he was publicly prosecuted. Since then, how many of those people have we seen publicly prosecuted? Maybe we should change our strategy.
At the end of the day, all we want, and I believe all that Nigerians want, is peace and security in a place that we call home. Well, that's where we leave the conversation this morning. We are glad that you could be a part of it. We'll now hand you over to a Lagos studio where Veronica and the rest of the crew are standing by to continue with the rest of the show.
All right, thank you very much. When you said Veronica, everybody expected to see Vero's face. And it turned out to be my face.
You've been christened.
Well, you're part of the crew.
All right. Thank you very much. That was a very engaging discussion you had there. Thank you. And now let's take it over from here.